first guest of honor from our premiere ceremony in 2011, has accepted the role of presenter today, and he will announce the 5 main categories. He's a 28-year veteran inker and penciler for Marvel, DC, Image, and Dark Horse Comics. He's currently writing and drawing his own material for Image Comics. Anyone out here pick up slots?
All right.
You got 2. You got 2. He was even nominated for that somewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our second guest speaker and my favorite urban barbarian, Dan Kenosha.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming out. Thanks for having me as the presenter here. Let's see. Here are the first 5 categories and nominees for the 2018 Inkwell Awards ballot. Please note that there are 2017 cover-dated American comic book material, and winners, please remember to wait for Mrs. Inkwell to assist you and watch your step. Very important. Any injuries here, will be safe. The first category is favorite inker, awarded for the favorite ink artist over pencil work. Listed, I guess if you look at the slide, they're not doing it. Well, they are going to be listed with the slides. So it'll be, the penciler will be listed with the slides. And the nominees are John Dell, John Floyd, John Glapion, if I'm saying his name right, he's not very French, McGray, Dan Green, Scott Hanna, Seth Mann, and Bill Sienkiewicz. And the winner with a 29.4% of the votes is none other than, I hope I'm saying his name right, Scott Hanna. 2011 and 2017. So it's a bit of a show off. Well, collects these. Some people collect comic books and collects inkwell awards.
Thank you, everybody. It really always is an honor just to be nominated in this category. All the people that were nominated are amazing artists. I really love what Bob says about calling us ink artists, because I actually grew up loving the pen and ink artists and the brush and ink artists from the turn of the century, what we call the golden age of illustration. And it was in the time period before publishing allowed for color, because we didn't have the technology to do color. So you had these astonishing artists who were doing this just gorgeous work. And inking is really about the fact that artists are using a medium called ink. We just happen to use the medium of ink. And so that specialty, to me, an illustration never looked finished unless I inked it. So the fact that we actually have a group, and by the way, I actually am nominated for an Eisner Award this year as well, but I would rather get this because, like Bob said, this is specifically about what I'm doing for the reasons that we do it. That it's appreciating the skill that all of us put into this. By the way, Dan and I both started at the same small black and white company that they actually published their work in, they didn't use color, it was published in black and white. So all the inking that was done was the printed end product. And it made us really learn how to do things right. Going back to the Golden Age illustrators, it was this transition period between publishing where they for a while couldn't publish color, then a lot of those ink artists went on to become painters and color artists. But what they learned from the inking was they learned good drawing, they learn good texture, they learn really good values, they learn good composition. Everything you need to do to be a good artist is absolutely the requirement to be a good ink artist. And that's one of the reasons I absolutely love this medium. And it also, like people, I've been doing a lot of painting lately as well, and people are like, Scott, how can you paint? You haven't painted for 20 years. I'm like, I use a brush and ink every day. That's called painting. Okay, I'm just painting with ink instead of painting with paint. It's still using the same skill set, the same knowledge, and the same end result. Just happens to have this little thing called color. But anyway, it's always, like I said, it's wonderful to be part of this group and to be honored. And I've said this before, but inkers never choose to become inkers because they think they're going to be the star or celebrated. We do it because we love it. We love the medium. We love the end product. We love the quality of the work. And it's something that I've always really enjoyed. I started doing comics over 30 years ago, and I said, I don't know how long this will last. I'll do this as long as I'm still having fun with it. And 32 years later, I'm still having fun. So, thank you very much.
All right, next is the Most Adaptable Inker Award for his exceptional style and inking versatility over other types of artists. The nominees are Jonathan Lapion, again, Scott Hanna, Jay Lysey, Mark Morales, Dexter Mines, Walton Wong, and the winner with 30%, with 30.9% of the votes is Scott Hanna. 2011, 2012, and if you remember last year, Scott is the Inkwell Award winner recipient, record holder for the most overall ballots to win to date. How do you feel about that?
It's, like I said, it's not something we aim for when we choose to be an inker. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go out and win lots of awards. No, it's really about trying to do the work as well as we possibly can. But to me, this is one of the categories that I actually absolutely adore. And it's unusual because not every inker tries to be adaptable. A lot of inkers that are super successful, very talented, pretty much do the same look over everybody, and that's their choice. So to be adaptable, you have to be able to use your skill to minimize your own self and highlight the work of your partner, your collaborator. And to me, it's like being a forger. It's like being able to do, oh, I'm going to do a Rembrandt today, I'm going to do a Picasso tomorrow, I'm going to do a Matisse the next day. Or maybe do all three of them the same day, because I frequently work on more than one artist at a time. So the forgers don't usually expect to get rewarded for that. And the fact that I have been and continue to be is again, a tremendous honor, and I'm very thankful. And yeah, I very much appreciate this because I strive to not make myself look good, but to make my partners look good. And that's my real goal. Thank you.
Category is the Props Award for the ink artist deserving of more attention for their work over other pencilers. The nominees are Mark Deering, Michelle Daniel Henriquez, Tony Portos, and Jason Hobbs, and also Joe Prado. This year's winner with 37.8, a little higher than is Joe Prado. Joe had previously won the Inkwell Award in 2016 for favorite ink.
So, needless to say, I'm really humbled First off, before that, sorry about the bad English. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm from I'm from Brazil, so we speak Portuguese. And it's a real big honor for me, okay, because like everybody here agrees, I think, it's a great art form, you know, and I started with comics, reading Prince Valiant, and you know, everything that Milton Kenneth did, and they were huge influences for me. And growing up in Brazil as an artist is really tough, you know, and it was really tough during the 90s, you know. And being able to work for DC for the past, I don't know, 16 years or something, has been amazing for me, and being chosen by my dear friend Ivan Reyes as his intern, you know, after Blackest Night was amazing. And like Mike Royer said, and many inkers agree, you never choose to be an inker, you know? You always want to be the artist doing the pretty pictures and everything. And by the time Ivan asked me, he said, Joe, we're going to do it. Let's do it. But dude, I'm going to school up for grades. Don't do that. You know, don't do that. And then he talked to Jeff Jones and said, hey, Jeff, we're going to bring Joe aboard. And Jeff said, if it sucks, he's never going to see print. Okay? I said, nice. You know, no pressure, Jeff. He said that on an open email. I was to see it on that. Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. And then I was back then doing designs for Blackest Night. So Ethan Van Skyler started and did like, I don't know, like 4 or 5. I did the next 300 something designs for Blackest Night. Yeah, it was a lot of work, and then they called me to ink Ivan on the book, and it's been a fun ride, you know. Scott helped me a lot, you know, during Justice League, and it was awesome. And now we're doing Superman with Bendis, so it's a really big book, and it's been really great, you know. And you, like, thanks for everybody involved. Thanks for having me here. I don't know. I'm terrible at speeches. Okay. Yeah, well, look, I know. You're being nice. Thank you, guys.
Populate this area. The fourth category is the Spammy Award for favorite small press and mainstream independent ink work over another pencil artist. Non-Marvel DC work. The nominees are Sal Buscema, Irene Flores, Stefano Guadiano, Mark Morales, Ronnie Ramos, Robin Briggs, and Ryan Wynn. And the winner with 25.1, not just 25.1% of the votes is Sal Buscema. He couldn't be here due to some health reasons, but we're going to ship him the trophy. I understand. Scott's going to just take it. But he did give us a statement. I'll read it right now. He goes, "Wow, I'm blown away. This is truly an honor, and I'm both proud and humbled to be chosen. You have no idea how disappointing this is for me. I'd love to be there to receive the award in person, but I'll be there. You better believe I'll be there in spirit. Please give everyone involved my heartfelt thanks, and I wish everyone at Heroes Con success. From the bottom of my heart, and this is in all caps, thanks so much." All right, our fifth category is the all-in-one award for favorite artist known for his or her inking their own pencil work. The nominees are Mitch Gerhards, Jolie Jones, David Marquez, Terry Moore, me, Stan Sakai, Leo Sharp, and Nico Suya. Let's see here. And the winner, with 20.8, almost 21% of the votes, is Liam Sharp, and he is a first-time winner. But here, he sent this over. He said, vehicles are important in many ways. They elevate our craft, and they admit that they are administered by industry legends. Like me. Well, now I am. I'm speaking here. And then voted for by the public. I am breathing rarefied air to be placed in such esteemed company alongside those I greatly admire. I cannot be happier to receive this award. Thank you to all who made it possible. There you go. It's a nice thing to say.
All right, yeah, I'm back. All right, I'll be gone before long. Thank you, Dan. Before we proceed to the Lifetime Achievement Awards, I'd like to interject and announce that we've also awarded our traditional silver inkwells to 3 nomination committee members who participated in 5 years of service but are not in attendance: Matt Herring, Tony Parker, and Rick Offenberger. I will ship these to them. I also want to announce a new tradition. Now that we've reached a decade of operations, the Above and Beyond Award for those organization members that have performed beyond the call of duty, or others in the community that have made stellar efforts to advance the art form of inking. For our first one, I'd like to award this to Joe Sinnott's son, Mark Sinnott, who has been a senior contributor for a decade, acting as a liaison between the inkwells and his dad. Without Mark's generosity and diligence, there would certainly not be as many accomplishments or funds raised for the organization. Successes which allowed us to reach this 10 years of operations and altruism. The second one deservedly goes to Robert Haynes, who has served on the nomination committee every single year for 10 years since the start of it all. Trust me, that's something. Lastly, to my close friend, the only Above and Beyond recipient in attendance, before she became, she knows it's coming. Before she became the real-world face of our advocacy and the professional liaison between us and the Concord creative community, my navigator, my travel assistant, my partner, the Ms. Inkle spokesmodel who has served longer than any other. All of her dozen predecessors, with the exception of one, only served 1 or 2 shows. Today, she's appearing at her 4th straight Heroes Con and has attended 21 consecutive events, 10 since 2017 alone. At times sick, without sleep, while expanding her duties to public speaking and moderating panels. She has been essential in raising us thousands of needed dollars in nonprofit fundraising. Through it all, we've seen each other at our best and our worst. I would now like Kathy to please escort Haley Skazagagny up to the dais and the mic.
Now we present the 2018 Joe Sinnott Hall of Fame Award for an inking career in American comics of outstanding accomplishment, lifetime achievement, 25 years minimum, 2 winners chosen annually. This honor is also chosen by the Internal Nomination Committee, the roster of former Hall of Fame award recipients, including Joe Sinnott, Terry Austin, Dick Giordano, Klaus Jansen, Al Williamson, Wally Wood, Kevin Nolan, Mark McKinnon, Scott Williams, Dick Ayers, Murphy Anderson, Joe Simon, Tom Palmer, Joe Cooper, Steve Dicko, Joe Rubenstein, Frank Garitoa, Jerry Ordway, and Rudy Negrees. The artists nominated for this year's prestigious honors were Dan Atkins, John Beatty, Mike Esposito, Mark Farmer, Joe Gillett, Al Gordon, Bob Lee, Pablo Marcos, Frank McLaughlin, Bob McLeod, and Bernie Rice. After tallying the votes, the runner-up was Bob Lee for the 2nd year in a row. The first of our 2 winners was the award ceremony guest of honor from last year, Joe Gillett. Joe was present just after the dawn of American comic books, starting in the mid-1940s, working for Hillman periodicals and Fawcett Comics, before being hired on staff by Stan Lee at Kindly. The precursor to Marvel, he did touch-up and inking jobs assisting other artists on Captain America, Human Torch, Submariner, and various humor stories. After that, his pal and one of the 2016 Hall of Fame winners, Frank Giacoa, is him to work for Better Paying National Comics, aka DC Comics, for 20 years, 48 Silver Age. Joe made a name for himself as a penciler, but especially as one of DC's all-star inkers, inking many iconic characters, including the first Silver Age Green Lantern. From the Bronze Age to the recent present, he applied his pencils and ink talents and skills to various noteworthy strips, such as Flash Gordon, The Phantom, Mary Worth, Sherlock Holmes, and as well as commercial art painting. The United States Post Office honored him in 2006 by using 2 images of his work in the DC Superheroes collection. He is an Ink Pot Award winner, 2016 Harvey Lifetime Achievement Award, and now an Inkwell. Regrettably, Joe had a schedule conflict, couldn't be here today, but we will shift his reward. Our second recipient is pencil and inker. Bob Platt. We'll take a moment to tell you a little bit about Bob. Since Bob and I went to high school together, all right? When I was a sophomore, Bob was a senior. Didn't know Bob, but we knew about each other through our classes that we took together. And I met Bob on the floor of the Commodore Hotel, July 4th, 1973. Yeah. At the Phil Schooling Convention. And we've been united in this industry ever since. So, Bob, it was a great pleasure.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's nice to have Pat introduce me because we used to be roommates. We're in the same high school art class and just coincidentally went up to New York at the same time to try to get into business. He got into the DC Apprenticeship Program. I did not. I had not been that big a comic book fan up until I got into tried to get into the business. A friend of mine was a big Marvel Comics fan, and when he found out I could draw, he said, "Oh, you gotta work for Marvel." I had been intending to try to get my own newspaper comic strip, maybe work for Walt Disney. I was much more into humor. Wanted to basically be more Drucker, work for Mad Magazine. Comics, I thought I would just do for a little while as like a stepping stone to go on something else, just to get my career going. So I wrote some remarks I want to read. Thanks very much to all the Inkwell Awards and the people who voted for me for this award. I should say up front, however, that as Bob Altman knows, I'm not really a big fan of awards for artists. I think they're too often given for the wrong reasons and are often too subjective to have much meaning. However, it's of course always very nice to receive an award of any kind. And in particular, these Inkwell Awards provide very much needed recognition and appreciation of the art of comic book inking, which has rarely received the respect that it deserves. So I do appreciate it, and in this case, I'll just assume it was awarded to me for the right reasons. Today, I'm actually best known for not inking, but for co-creating and penciling the New Mutants. But I have done a whole lot of inking. I started out my career doing lettering corrections in the production department at Marvel, sitting next to Mike Esposito and Frank Giacoa, two top inkers who were doing their inking right there in the Marvel office at little wooden drawing tables. Excuse me. I, of course, wanted to be drawing comics and had no ambition to do inking at all, but Mike Esposito said I could learn to be an inker faster than I could learn to be a penciler. So I started inking backgrounds for Mike, and was soon getting my own ink jobs. I was lucky enough to be able to learn the art of inking while getting paid to do it. So please disregard the first few jobs that I did, first year or 5. The unfortunate truth is that very few people really understand exactly what an inker contributes to a page of comic art. I know I didn't before I became an inker. The inker's role could vary quite a lot, depending on the penciler and also on the inker. Digital coloring's full range of tone has also greatly affected the role of the inker, often usurping a lot of what we used to do in my day. Today's inkers usually play a somewhat different role than I did during most of my career, due to the digital color and how tight the pencils typically are now. Tight pencils don't really allow the inker as much artistic input. In the first 3 decades of my career, the inker was expected to bring a lot to the table because most pencils were fairly loose and not at all meant to be traced. You couldn't trace pencilers like Billy Graham and Bob Brown even if you wanted to. The inker needed to have a rendering style and be able to refine the drawing. Good control of the brush and pen were a given. But although I did an awful lot of inking, I'm proud to be called an inker, I also was always penciling. At first for Crazy Magazine, Marvel's Crazy Magazine, which was their version of Mad Magazine. And soon after, as an inker, soon after for the dramatic comics. I always considered inking just part of the process, and I wanted to do the complete art. Penciling, inking, lettering, coloring, whenever I could, which turned out to be just once in 40 years. But I penciled and inked a lot of comics. Because I could draw as well as ink, I was very often asked to ink beginning pencilers, or pencilers who didn't have a good rendering style. And I was expected to make their art look better than it was. That often required a good amount of erasing and redrawing. I was doing at least half the work. But at that time, the penciler's job was just mainly concerned with composition and figure posing. Pencilers weren't really expected to draw pages finished enough to be traced. The editors wanted them to be spending their time doing visual storytelling and drawing at least a page or 2 a day. They wanted the inkers to be adding the finished style and making the art clean and ready to print. Similarly, I also did a lot of what was called finishing, which consisted of inking breakdowns rather than finished pencils. Breakdowns typically have no lighting or rendering, and the drawing can be very loose. So I had to have a good knowledge of anatomy, lighting, and to know where and how to do rendering that was appropriate to the pencils. I couldn't ink Mike Golden's Howard the Duck the same way I would ink John Buscema's Conan. But on both those jobs, the style of the finished art was entirely up to me. And that's the way I liked it. The looser the pencils, the more fun I could have finishing them up. So I'm very fortunate to have worked in comics during the decades that I have, and I'm proud to have managed to spend the majority of my lifetime working for most of the top publishers. And I do consider it an achievement to be proud of. So thank you very much for this award.
Joe Simmons, the award's namesake, first winner, made the following statement about this year's inductees. I was thrilled to hear that 2 very fine inkers were selected for induction to the Inkwell Awards Hall of Fame for 2018. My good friend Joe Gila had a very long career in comics and syndication. Joe is inking Captain Marvel stories for Fawcett, is doing work on top characters, Captain America, the Human Torch, Submariner for Time. Joe would move over to DC in the late 40s and ink stories featuring the Flash and Green Lantern. He would ink Westerns in the early 50s, Adam Strange, Batman, Green Lantern stories would soon follow. Ushering us into the silver age of comics. In syndication, Joe would be inking Flash Gordon, The Phantom, Batman, and Mary Worth, the last being a strip he worked on for 25 years before retiring in 2016. Bob McLeod has a long career in comics, inking the Incredible Hulk, Conan, Wonder Woman, Detective Comics, and would also go on to make many stories featuring Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man. He co-created and worked on the New Mutants graphic novel, several other issues with that title as well. Bob was also editor for Rough Stuff magazine for 2 Marvels publishing. Bob was even one of the background inkers on the Superman and Spider-Man Marvel Treasury edition. I didn't ink, but I ink. And he teaches part-time at the Pennsylvania College of Art and Design. Both Joe and Bob had previous ties to the Inkwell Awards. Bob being the keynote speaker at the Inkwell Awards ceremony at HeroesCon in 2012. Joe being the guest of honor at the Inkwell Awards ceremony at HeroesCon in 2017. It is with great pride that we honor these 2 very fine inkers to the Inkwell Awards family as 2018 recipients of the Just Senate Hall of Fame Award. Congratulations, guys. Job and career well done. Your final May 27, 2018.